Yeah, this is Joey Hornbuckle, and you're listening to Plutocracy Now, and I'm here with
Bridgman Bolger,
Tez Ricklin,
Scott Brown,
and of course Scott. So what we're going to focus on today is looking at comparing some states, seeing who's more corrupt, who's less corrupt, and a little competition. Of course, we live in Georgia, so we want to see how Georgia does when it comes to corruption among other states, how far we've come, see how good we're doing compared to the rest of the country. So we've got a lot of studies that have been done. And what are the experts saying, Bridgman? Like, how are we doing? How high do we rank?
Well, according to a national study conducted by the Center for Public Integrity, Georgia ranks number 1 in corruption with its ethics laws, and it's not enforcing the laws that they have are not very well enforced already. And
so we're not number 1 for doing a good job.
We are actually number 50. So, if you want to look at it like that, we're number 50 because our ethic laws are very unethical, and they're not even enforced. So.
Oh man! So
that's the Center for Public Integrity.
Yes, that's the Center of
Public Integrity, Global Integrity,
the most thorough study and wide-ranging conducted in the last 10 years.
According to who? Themselves?
According to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
Oh man! Well, has anybody else done a study and said that maybe we're a little better than that? Like last place?
I can't say from any particular source, but from my research, there was pretty much general consensus that we were in last place. And there actually been some people in the Georgia legislature who attested this. Joe Wilkinson, who is our ethics committee chair, he's a Republican out of Sandy Springs. He said that the study was biased because the author of the study for the state of Georgia in particular was Jim Wells, and he's a Democratic strategist. But being that this seems to be consensus from other studies, and this happens to be the most thorough and wide-ranging study, I think it's pretty safe to say, considering that we have a governor who was ranked one of the 15 most corrupt members of Congress by the Congressional Ethics Committee.
So not just corrupt, but corrupt by Congress standards.
Yes, exactly, from an already corrupt institution.
So to put that in a global perspective, I bet we're about number 20 in the world for the most corrupt nation. And
if we were a nation, if Georgia was a standalone country?
Exactly. We'd probably be on par with Romania.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Oh,
that's
God.
probably where we are. So go Georgia. Go Georgia corruption. Somebody's getting rich. Who's getting rich, guys?
Yeah, who are these? Well,
yo, you guys hear me?
Yeah, Scott, what you got to say?
All right, I'm over here in the quarantine, just wondering. All right, well, last year, let me tell you something about...
That's Scott on the radio.
Yeah.
So, what were you asking? Who's getting all this money?
Yeah, who's getting the money? If Georgia's corrupt, where's the corruption
Georgia
go?
spends $1.4 billion per year on incentive programs for corporations. It's $1.4 billion per year.
Incentivizing corporations
corporate welfare.
To do what? Like, what are we incentivizing corporations to do?
Make money.
To do business here, apparently. But also to do business in other countries.
Wow, that's pretty staggering.
Well, 1.4 billion, I wonder how it compares to, what's the GDP of Georgia? I wonder how it compares to other states.
It's $144 per capita per year.
All right.
It's 8 cents. I guess it's 8% of the state budget.
Yeah. If we're
8% of the state budget
jobs,
is a handout to corporations.
You said 8% of the state budget?
Yeah, 8 cents per dollar of the state budget.
So we spend more money on giving corporate welfare than we do MARTA?
Welfare.
Or
actual welfare.
Perhaps welfare. Welfare if you minus healthcare, welfare, or MARTA.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Georgia, run by Republicans, and what all they get to bill everything as is, tax credits, tax reduction. Lowering taxes is always good.
In fact, I don't think colleges
11th
get that much
commandment.
funding. Wow,
Probably
it's got to be
not.
pretty good to get a corporation.
All right. Well, I bet some of that 1.4 billion can be defended logically to say, you know what, we need to compete with Alabama to bring these
Well, in
jobs here. But of course, I know some of that 1.4 billion has got to be pure corruption.
But here, look, this is also, well, of course, but I mean, it can't be both at the same time too. Because I mean, think about what they'll use to, but also, look, this is what's going on all over this country with state budgets. States are just trying to, out-hoard themselves to different corporations to get them to go to their state. And so we're really just creating a drain on all the government's resources, handing out to corporations, fighting between different states in our own damn country, and wondering why our country's, not in the best economic times right now.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But
I mean, we're not even competing in the world. We're competing to get people on a different state line.
Right.
But if that's the case, and all the states which are already cash-strapped and not able to give enough funding to their schools and colleges and Medicaid programs, they're spending, over $1 billion in Georgia and obviously much more in larger states on corporate welfare. Isn't that something that a federal government should be concerned about? Shouldn't that be something that's just banned? Why aren't we paying attention to this?
Because we have
Well,
lobbyists.
It's the same thing goes on in the federal government. Why do you think it's any different there?
Yeah.
It's the same shit. It's plutocracy from the top to the bottom, man.
But is the federal government trying to keep people here through
No,
lower
look,
corporate tax rates?
Did you guys look at that stuff I posted about the fiscal cliff deal?
No, I didn't. I'm not gonna lie.
Nope.
NASCAR came out on top, right, Scott?
Yeah, NASCAR came out. There's a bunch of corporate handouts on there.
NASCAR getting the hookup.
Yeah.
I mean, NASCAR, Goldman Sachs, but also look. Here's one thing. You go and look at Georgia, and the biggest company the company that receives the most in government handouts is Caterpillar.
Yeah.
And they were
Wow.
also one of the recipients that were noted in the active financing exemption that was in the fiscal cliff bill that they passed. So all these
Caterpillar,
companies, they're basically getting handouts to do business overseas, and this is the argument they use. They'll argue that it's helping, that it's financial benefit because other countries have lower corporate tax rates than the United States, even though what corporations really pay in the United States is a lot lower than most other countries. It's just that the tax rates are high, but there's tons of loopholes because, shit, look at Georgia alone. 1 whatever billion per year. So same thing happens on the federal level.
You know I get down, I'm a downer, hard pounder, LOL, smelling like sarin, felony broadcast Ellis, dressed to the nines like a target, dressed like a bullseye, but a blind archer, harder for piranha, swimming with a blood chum water, lark in the darkness, watching, I got this, boombox, burner boy, hot shit, burn like a LA sunset, colorful, toxic, snuff, deadly and erotic, walk like a man out of product, run like a strumpet, talk to the hand sock puppet, look at them sky right, fuck it, we hard nothing, we don't have a tear for your bucket, life's but a pageant, then into the deep shit, try to pull the curtain back, crack police whip. Here come the stage mom. Press a little horse to display them. Cut into my brain like a ray gun. Telling you these fuckers are shameless. So I'm at a Reagan. Look at how they bent to the training. Why would I be angry? Now when I can chemically hang, glide angle. Face stop mangle. Anguish. Know that some of our high language. Roll a joint. Hit a fry guy till he vanquish. Bonus point. Bonus point. Bonus point. Bonus point. Bonus point. Bonus point.
With all these crowdmen, you sound like you're drowning.
You know I get bent, I'm a bender. Futura, rhyme dominant, team gone batting. Passed along to my bloodstream pumping madness. For a little held down hashes. Staying to practice how to detach from a white noise planet. With a dispatch rate from commander, throw haymaker plus landed. Never take a win for granted. Remember the pitch that I sang with to annoy masses. Before mass grapes, hats like magic. Everybody bow to the bastards. Anthem master, the fastest get rancid. Back to the matter, my graphic track hapless. Living a mirage is hard and I crack here, but staff passing. Wanna watch, I'ma smoke till I'm fashion. Choke like a champion. 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 Champion.
Like I've been thrown now. I sound like I'm drowning.
If you look at this situation from a macro level, you look at it globally, you see that the countries with the highest corruption are also the countries with the highest poverty rates. And if you take that to a micro level and look at the states of this union, you see the same trend. You know, the states that are suffering economically, they have the highest rates of corruption and some of the lowest graduation rates. And I think it's
also known as the South.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. This is just the facts, man.
It is.
I mean,
It's
look
facts.
look at what states are sucking on the federal teat, man. When it comes to fucking
Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi.
That would be generally,
Those are the three worst.
State-
Consecutively in every category, whether it's healthcare
infant
benefits,
mortality,
obesity,
healthcare, education.
I do remember seeing that southern states were the ones that got the most back from the federal government.
Yeah, they get more than they spend. They get more than they give, and it's all the.
But government is evil.
Yeah.
But let's look at some specific examples, because we're looking at the big scheme of things and saying a total of $1.4 billion in Georgia and much more in all the other states when you add them all up together. But as an individual example, recently we know that Delta Airlines, which is a company that was struggling a few years back because of a couple of really competitive companies like AirTran that were taking a lot of business away from Delta. But now Delta's doing pretty good. It's pretty profitable. And every year they are being given a tax break on the tax that they're supposed to pay on the gasoline that they buy at Hartsfield Airport. And they're just given a complete waiver on paying that tax. Everybody else pays it, including the Atlanta-based AirTran and everybody else there who's creating jobs, but specifically not Delta. Now, that should be disturbing enough because nobody else is getting these tax breaks, and by having this tax break, it means that infrastructure is not getting as much funding as it's supposed to get, because this is where our highways get its funding, is from the gasoline tax. But on top of that, it's also interesting to point out that the people who voted for this tax break, especially the really powerful ones like the Speaker of the House in Georgia, Mr. Ralston, they all, for some reason, have free passes to get on Delta and get all the benefits that normally people would have to pay a lot of money to get, like the golden miles and all that kind of stuff. They have that just for free for some reason.
And who are those three people?
It's more than three people. But I'm just telling you, David Ralston's one of the more significant ones because he's quite a powerful guy. He is the Speaker of the House. He's been Speaker of the House now for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. So I think this is his third year, maybe his fifth year. And he's a pretty charismatic guy. And he gets a lot of free stuff, including a free trip that he recently enjoyed to Europe to, quote, study their mass transit system, which he has done nothing about since he's gotten back to Georgia. And, free stuff involving Delta, which has got to be a pretty sweet deal.
Isn't that great? Corporations paying the politicians, politicians making sure corporations get lots of money. That's what it's all about.
It's the circle
Georgia,
of life.
number one in corruption. That's great. Joey, didn't you come up with some other facts, too, about the whole tax subsidy? Exactly how much money? Did you get a ballpark figure of exactly how much money a year goes to Delta from this tax benefit of not having to pay their gasoline tax?
It is in the tens of millions of dollars.
I think it's 20 million.
20 million, tens of millions. So that's $20 million worth of highway that is not being built every single year.
For kids to go get a college education at University of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, or any other public university.
Just fuel the education.
Yeah, whenever you give these kinds of special tax breaks, it does take away from families one way or another, whether they're trying to go to college or trying to go to work on the road.
Yeah.
And Joey, I'm a little disappointed that you just used the word. You didn't say job creators, but you said like Delta because they're creating jobs. And I'm just going to push back against that phrase. I think that's a horrible phrase used by the right wing people in this country.
Yeah, you know who creates jobs is the goddamn working class.
Exactly. The people that actually buy the tickets to fly on Delta to create the demand for their services are the ones that create the jobs.
And when you're letting people fly for free, you're not creating any jobs because that's one less ticket that would have been purchased.
When you are giving our Speaker of the House a free ride, first class, go across the country to study mass transit, you're not creating jobs. You're taking away money from what should be going to hardworking taxpayers to help their kids go to school, some other useful function. So I'm a little disappointed you use the phrase creating jobs.
Let me restate it like this. People are going to buy airplane tickets, and they have to buy it from somebody, some organization, a corporation, in order to make it happen. If Delta wasn't getting this tax break, somebody else would be creating the jobs. So if Delta is creating more jobs thanks to this tax break, those are jobs that now AirTran is not able to create due to no fault of their own, due to what many would call corruption, but what legally in Georgia is actually just legal.
I just see no evidence whatsoever that the money that they're getting is actually going to
Creating jobs.
creating jobs. How do
Maybe
we know
a bonus or
how do we know it's not just going out as a dividend to shareholders or to corporate CEOs so they can just bank up with millions
Brian.
of income?
Yes,
don't
a
know where
lot
the
of
money's
that
going.
is. A lot of that tax break is going to, just the shareholders of the company and the CEO. But this has got to have created at least, 10 jobs.
10.
That's great, Joey.
10
That's great.
jobs.
According
10 jobs.
10 jobs.
Just
and those are 10
just
jobs that
published.
AirTran would have created, but because of the tax break, now Delta's been given a 10-job majority and higher profits for their
How
shareholders.
much did it cost the taxpayers of Georgia to create these 10 jobs? That's
$20
the question.
million.
Okay. So that means that each job is worth $2 million.
That's right. $2 million a job.
I want one of these jobs. How
That's
do I
only
get,
20 times more than the average job costs to create.
Okay. That's a real good job if it's 20
brought to
times
you
more.
by a true representative.
That's $100,000 job you're talking about, Joey.
Oh, but they're not getting paid that well.
Brought to you by a true believer in plutocracy, Joey Hornbuckle, standing up for Delta.
Give me a break.
Standing up for the big man.
No, but it really is amazing. You think about it, the amount that these people are able to get away with. I mean, you would think that with this kind of story that people would want to get away from Delta, and that next time they ride airlines, that they would say, hey, I'm going to specifically avoid Delta because they are taking my tax dollars and preventing roads from being built. But people don't know it.
But
The media is not doing a good enough job at telling the story on this. People are not being involved enough about this. There should be a boycott about Delta, because this isn't just the legislators' fault. This is Delta's fault. Delta made a concentrated effort to have lobbyists go out and make sure that this thing got passed and that corruption
But it's
happened.
kind of hard for people to boycott Delta in the state of Georgia when so
Yeah, they
many
got the
people's
cheapest
jobs,
prices, man.
when so many people work in industries that have partnerships with Delta and they have a financial business account with Delta or even a banking account, because Delta has its own credit union now, so your payroll might be through Delta Community Credit Union. So it's so many people who might want to boycott Delta, but they're too big to fail in the state of Georgia for it to be. If you boycott Delta in Georgia, the ramifications are staggering for the economy. It's so many dominoes fall.
Yeah, then write a letter. Write a letter to the Office of Investor Relations. Write a letter to whoever. Write a letter to Delta. Write a letter to your representative. Just let them know that this puts a bad taste in our mouth as taxpayers. We don't want.
Man, they ain't gonna read that.
Hey, they know when they get the letter. They see it. They know.
They'll read it if they
there's-
get
Yeah,
100
right.
letters.
You know what,
I mean,
man? I went to try
They'll
to
read it
lobby.
if they'll get it from Joy Hornbuckle. If they get it from Joy Hornbuckle, they're going to read the goddamn letter.
Well, that's because they give it
Nah,
money.
man, I went in to talk to my fucking representative last year. He wouldn't even talk to me.
Well, yeah.
That's
I mean, you call the staff member. You talk to them on the phone. We have.
They go, they
Yeah, but I saw him meeting with-
that's because
I
they
saw
say
him-
some Occupy guys out here. They just
I
close
saw
up.
him meeting with professional lobbyists, though.
Let me put it to you like this.
He wouldn't have done that to me if I was Delta.
You're right. You wouldn't have.
And, man, I think he was the one who sponsored that bill. Tom Rice, man.
Let me put it to you like this. Tea
put in-
Partiers almost prevented the healthcare law from getting passed in 2009, 2010, even when a lot of Republicans in the beginning were open to it because they said this looks just like our Republican health care plan from 15 years ago. But then when Tea Partiers started writing in the thousands saying we don't want you to pass this and we think that this law would threaten our rights, no Republican in the entire Congress wound up supporting the entire thing.
It was because the whole public, because white people got riled up when the Tea Party started up.
Right. Why did white people get so riled up?
Why is that so much about race with you guys? Damn.
I don't know. He's the one that brought it up. Why do Americans get so riled up about universal health care and so offended? But then when it comes to corruption with a company like Delta, who, by the way, Delta did not build Hartsfield Airport. Hartsfield Airport built Delta. Hartsfield Airport was already there, and Delta just took advantage of it. We don't need Delta. If Delta left, somebody else would fill up the gap and make a lot of money for it.
Correct, but there'd be a little mini recession in the state.
Yeah, talk that shit in the Capitol, man. They'll have you escorted out. We don't want to hear any of that.
Let's get our money from Delta. All right. So I have another point of corruption I would like to bring up
Point of information
that I found out through a series of articles in Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and that deals with our airport and the way we
were on the top. That's a good way you transitioned that. I love
you.
that. That was cool.
So we're going to talk about restaurant contracts at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. From what I've read, about 36% of these restaurant contracts are what you call airport certified disadvantaged business enterprises. And a disadvantaged business enterprise is some Department of Transportation characterization that qualifies you for preferential treatments for a contract. So about 36% of the contracts down at the
so this is like affirmative action for business?
Kind of like that, exactly. It's affirmative action for businesses
that are unprofitable.
And so, well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
But not being profitable.
Because to qualify...
How are they disadvantaged?
To qualify as a disadvantaged business, you have to, for example, be worth less than $750,000, or they did try to raise it up to $1.32 million. Well, the FAA was reviewing these contracts, and they said, hey guys, we think 4 of these businesses aren't going to qualify as this disadvantaged business enterprise, so we don't think they should have that characterization. So the Georgia Department of Transportation took a look, and guess what? They said, no, we think everything's okay. Well, one of the people that owns Max 2, a fellow by the name of Mac Wilborn.
His real name is Mac.
Real name is Mac Wilborn. Printed in the right there in the AJC. I added the news story to Wikipedia. So if you go to Wikipedia, go to restaurant contracts. I've cited the AJC article there.
Pumping your Wikipedia pages.
There for you as a public servant. Thank you. So this guy, guess what? The FAA thinks he is worth more than $1.32 million. And he also raises money for Barack Obama. Barack Obama went to this gentleman's house back in the day for a fundraiser. So I wonder if this guy will lose his disadvantaged business enterprise status. Guess what? It doesn't matter. Even if you lose your disadvantaged business status, that doesn't mean you lose the contract with the airport. Dun, 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 dun. Money keeps flowing to people who don't need it at the airport, even though the law was passed to try to get people in there to bring us cool food. But you know what? We're paying too much for the food down there.
What kind of food does Max sell? You know?
Max 2. That's the
macaroni
restaurant.
and cheese.
Disadvantaged millionaire.
I'm gonna call a few of these companies out. We have Max 2.
That's what they're called, Max 2?
Max 2, we got Hojage branded food.
Hojay branded food.
Mac and Hose. So we got Hose and Max.
And we have
at the Hartsfield-Jackson Airport.
Gotta avoid those Hose and Max. They're kind of
controversial. And we have an error on my computer, so check Wikipedia. It's there under restaurant contracts. You can read about it. So it's just shenanigans. And like the AJC said, this fits into a historical pattern of allegations of cronyism and political influence at the airport. Thank you, Hartsfield Jackson.
Well, hey, cronyism isn't illegal in Georgia.
Well,
Not-
That is
Well, let
true.
me-
They're
let
not
me-
breaking
let
the
me-
law.
let me go into some issues that I've been pointed to address by some political insiders that I shall not disclose because they were so so great in giving me this information. But back in the 2010 legislative year, the Republican Party of Georgia was offering vacation packages with an elected official of your choosing, that's any House representative, to the highest donors for a particular fundraiser. So, and these vacation packages were to places within the state and out the state. Some in Florida, including popular themed,
Popular tourist destination.
yeah. I'm not gonna name any names, but it's in Orlando.
Got to get that beach on.
You know what I'm saying? And the highest donors could sit down, take their families, and discuss business with a Republican politician of your choosing. And this was totally legal. The ethics chairman was totally aware of this, and in fact, he was one of the ones that many were going to meet with. The head of the ethics committee.
But
Why run for a
Yeah,
seat when you can
that's-
buy one?
thank you for bringing that to our attention. But it just kind of depresses me because it seems like the principle of buying access is just so prevalent in our system where whether you're paying thousands of dollars to go sit down with Barack Obama or Mitt Romney or my House representative, she sends out these emails talking about, oh, be my friend. If you donate $2,500 to my campaign, you'll be my special friend. If you donate 1,000 this or 500 this
Oh
or
my
250
God.
that, right? This is my House, Georgia House representative, and these are the kind of emails I get. I get this constant message that money buys access.
Yeah.
Bands will
I
make
get
her
that
money
shit from
buys.
Obama too. I'm like, how did I end up on
Bands
this
will
list?
make her dance. This is a fact.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it is a fact.
Bands to make a dance. Bands to make a
Yeah.
dance. So, money buying access. Thank you. And you know what? That's how it's supposed to be. This is the United States of America. That is how our system was designed. Our Constitution was written for wealthy, landowning white men. Those are the people that own the country, and those are the people that should govern the country. And that's how our Constitution was written. It was written to guarantee the wealthy run the show. And our democracy is not to give people a voice. It's set up to give the rich their playground. And we have to make sure we can address this constitutionally because the Supreme Court clearly isn't on our side with Citizens United.
Right.
And so I'm going off on a rant here about general American corruption, but that's how I see our general American
Wait,
corruption
I got a question, man.
perverting our Georgia system.
I got a question for you historians. So what did the founding fathers say about corruption in our system? Did they? Any of you guys know?
Which founding father
Any
are you
of
talking
them.
about?
Any of them.
I did see Lincoln
So,
recently, and
He's not a founding father, but okay.
he's not a
We'll
founding
take him.
father, but even in Lincoln's time,
Founding grandson.
Lincoln was going around and doing little quid pro quos and like patronage jobs and stuff. So I imagine corruption is just greasing the wheels. That's just kind of how politics is designed to work.
Well,
Yeah, it was
I mean, a
accepted back
democracy
then.
on that level with that, a republic like that was a pretty new idea back then. And so I don't think it was one of the big things that the founding fathers were looking out for, especially in the beginning with the Constitution. They were really worried about, is this thing going to last? Is it going to be taken over by mob rule? Are people just going to
Or
go
the
crazy
British,
and overthrow? Or are
or
we
the
going to have
natives.
revolution all the time? Will the British Empire invade us? Those seem to be the things
French,
that
the Spanish.
I don't think that they
Oh,
felt
right.
like they couldn't solve corruption with democracy. I don't think that they expected.
I think if
what
they would
turned
have
out.
saw this coming, we would have had 11. We would have had an extra amendment in the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that the reason that they wanted property owning people to be the only ones that could vote was because they felt that those would be the ones that were educated. Not that that's right or anything, but I'm just saying that that's why they thought it was a good idea. They wanted the educated people to be the ones that voted. They were worried about everyone else.
About the ignorant vote.
Scott, were you gonna
Ignorant
teach
vote.
us?
Now
a
it's an
quote?
asset.
Yeah, tell us the quote.
What quote?
I thought you were gonna quote the founding fathers on corruption.
No, I was that was a serious question.
Oh, okay. That was an honest question. You
Yeah.
were curious.
Yeah.
I thought you
Gotcha.
were being a smart ass.
Well, look
I
at it
wasn't
from
setting
a,
myself up to look educated.
but look at all of this from the politician's point of view. If you're trying to get reelected and you're trying to keep your power so that you can do certain good things, the way that the law is set up right now is that you've got to please somebody. You've got to go out and make other people happy and get some funding from those people so you can run your campaign and buy your ads and,
when you're not a
and hire
politician,
your
they call it
staff to get
prostitution.
reelected.
Those
So-
people should be the constituents, not CEOs of corporations that don't live in your district.
But that's the thing. Like, politicians would love for something like that to be the case, but it's not. So the game that they're playing right now is that they recognize the people who are coming to their office every day are the lobbyists. It's the corporate people that have the money and say, hey, we'll put this money into your campaign if you vote on this bill because it's good for the economy. And then it happens because they say, well, shoot, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to have the other guy raise more money and then beat me, and then I won't be able to do the few good things I feel like I could do.
Well, you know,
The system is designed against a politician who wants to not be corrupt.
that's because these people that have the influence to change the system are benefit from it. You know that there hasn't been a state inquiry on vendors who's given out gifts in over 10 years. There's been no disclosure of this, and the gifts keep going, keep coming. And I believe last session they voted on an extension of this law that they haven't been enforcing.
Mhm.
So it's just we're
That-
going to extend it and not enforce it for another 10 years. So
That's because the majority of the people in legislature would get caught with that stuff, and they don't want that.
Everybody,
They
you're
want to
right.
keep their jobs, and they don't want to be found to be corrupt.
But you see, it's like you see, like if you look at some of these people's Facebook pages, they're at every Falcons game, and it's one of you wonder, like, yeah, you think you paid for those season tickets yourself? I mean, like,
Yo,
yeah,
but gifts
like you're taking pictures with Arthur Blank, and you know,
Gifts from lobbyists are
and
illegal,
you just
though.
happen to be at the Falcons game every week, you know.
No, but this is saddening. I mean, this is plutocracy. This is what has been created before us. It's what politicians are having to deal with, and it's what activist citizens who really care about their community are having to deal with. But it's people who don't get involved and don't learn and don't find these things out and don't write to the representatives that are ultimately causing the issue. That's where the problem comes out of. Because without that kind of popular support, as a politician, it's either play or die.
Well, I think some politicians need to stick their neck out. I think some politicians need to say, you know what? My main goal in life is to serve the public and not to get reelected.
We got some decent politicians in Georgia.
If some politicians
We-
had some more
we do have
backbone, like
some.
Scott's saying, then they should be willing to stand up and fight for what's right and fight for the people and not worry about
You know what we need?
if they're going to get reelected or not so much sometimes. It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act.
What we need is more regular people like us running for office. And, you know, we always have the naysayers who say, oh, we're not going to be able to raise enough money and get enough people caring about our campaign. But if you decide to run in 4 years, you've dedicated your life to doing that today, you won't have to raise $100,000 to win your seat. You'll just have to knock on 100,000 doors in your district. And you know, politicians have gotten away from that because it used to be like that. You know, you used to see your politicians. You used to see them face to face. Now all you see is an emissary that's sent out there, some intern that they sent out there for free to get college credit, to knock on your door and compile your name in a database that your number's going to be changed in 6 months and just be a waste of time. And you don't even know who you're voting for. You see a D or R and you vote for everybody in that column, or you see incumbent and you vote for that person, but nobody takes time to get into the issues. And that is why the plutocrats have been able to manipulate the people in this system.
there are some smart, bold exceptions to the rules that we're talking about. There are some good people in there, like Vincent Fort or Jason Carter.
Nanora.
Yeah, there you go. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, hey, there's you guys heard the Common Cause has a pledge going through now. I guess they want to get a bill that just adds a simple little line into the official code of Georgia that will say it shall be unlawful for a lobbyist to make a gift to a public officer where the value of the gift is more than $100. So already 133 candidates for General Assembly have signed the pledge, including everyone we named.
that's great. How many of them won? Do we know?
Vincent Ford.
Man, this is
Out of
this is
133,
this
did we
is
get-
pretty recent.
They
Did we
won.
get 10 of them?
Man, I don't know.
We got those three with
got-
his name.
Yeah, and there's a lot of Republicans. You'd be surprised. This list is half Republican.
But you know, well, here's a historical problem that
The
Georgia
head of the
has.
ethics committee is a Republican. So
Georgia is the last state of all 50 states in the country that ever voted Republican for a president. It took us ages to get to that point, and it took us even longer for us to finally not be a completely Democratic Party controlled state on the state level. And because before that, it was completely dominated by Democrats.
Well, hey, this is the Tea Party putting this forward.
Yeah, 2010 was the final nail in the coffin. And
Right.
we
Well,
lost.
but even before that, in 2002 and 2004 was really when the Democrats fell. But when they fell hard. It didn't become an even sort of thing where suddenly, the state became moderate and both parties were able to start competing over who was less corrupt, as is able to happen in a lot of other states. That never happened here. We had one party rule and there was no competition, so the Democratic Party had no reason to change the corruption, and now we have one party rule the other way around. Many of the same people that were in the Democratic Party, now they're the Republicans, and they don't want to change it either because there's no reason to. They've got all the power, they've got all the money, they've got control of all the committees, they've got everything they want. There's no reason to go out and say, oh yeah, and we're going to be less corrupt, because it just gets in the way, and it's unfortunate.
All right, so according to Common Cause, in the 2011 legislative session in here in Georgia, lobbyists spent almost $1.5 million on Georgia legislators in the 4 months that it's in session. So that augments their, measly pay a little bit. And that stuff, that's just what's disclosed.
Yeah, it doesn't. It does not include anything that's under the table.
Well, I'm happy to see my representative, Stacey Abrams. She is listed as one of the people who support this prohibition against the $100 gifts from lobbyists.
I don't understand why they don't just outlaw all gifts. I mean, why does a lobbyist need to give a gift to a politician?
Then how would their job? What's their job then? What do they do? Let me come and talk to you and try to convince you with common sense.
That's what there's. I know it sounds crazy and radical, but
I like that idea.
That's crazy and radical.
you got to use
I'm
sound
glad
logic
to hear.
and
Stacey
good
Abrams is a
arguments to-
beast, and I wouldn't say that about many people, but she's great, and she's a minority leader in the House of Representatives for the Democrats. And
she
she
does
is
look
someone
a
who
little
is-
beastly too herself.
Oh, I wasn't saying that at all. No, she, but she is.
Oh, that's not what you're
she's
saying?
a
Oh.
talented person who's been pretty bold and is taken some tough positions like that, and she is very against corruption. I just wish more people were like that.
If you ever get a picture with Stacey Abrams, you're going to be in a tough position too.
Oh God. Former. I have nothing to say.
She does good policy though. Good policy. I don't think she's going to get elected president. She's just not a pretty woman.
Well, she is on the Council of Foreign Relations. So
yeah,
anything's possible.
she's bright. She's a lawyer who graduated from Yale University.
Mm-hmm.
She's a beast.
Right,
She is. I will give her that.
Oh.
So what other examples of public corruption do we have in Georgia? Because in general, I think it's very corrupt. It's very disheartening to see how much public education and tuition, how much that has inflated and how much more expensive it is to go to a public university in Georgia over the past 10 years. It's depressing.
Well, Nathan Dale won fair and square, and now we're getting fucked fair and square. So
Man.
we get all this money. We had it. Zell Miller, he created a fabulous thing with the Hope Scholarship, and ever since Sonny Perdue was elected, it's been getting defunded little by little, year by year. And then Sunny Purdue passed the requirement that you had to maintain an A average, is it now? It used to be a B average. Now you have to have a 4.0 to maintain this, and
Yeah, something pretty close to that.
It's
pretty
and
out
that's hard for anybody, but the people that were benefiting from this program most were minorities, and being a minority is pretty hard in this country, even harder in the state of Georgia, and to maintain an A average with the issues that many minorities in the state have to deal with is, it's extremely rare. A very small percentage of African Americans and Hispanics maintain an A average for every year of college. A B average is more realistic to maintain, and a lot more people were helped out when it was at the B average.
So the idea with the changes is basically to make sure that the people with the really high, like 4.0 GPAs, the people who are getting other scholarships anyway, they're the ones that keep the full scholarships.
Yeah.
But the people who are less likely to get other scholarships, they're the ones that they don't get the full scholarship.
Back to plutocracy. The elites keep winning. That we have enough money to afford to send our child to any school we want to, but we're going to send them to school in Georgia just because we can save, and have another Tuscan vacation this year.
According to statebudgetsolutions.org, we had per capita expenditures, the state budget, around $1,000 per person in the year 2000. And then year 2010, 10 years later, we were down to about $750 a person that the state of Georgia was spending. Now, if we're only going to spend $750
Spending it
per
on
person, of course, some of that money is going to come out of education. So, I don't know exactly how much went to each policy, but in the big scheme of things, the state of Georgia has been spending less money. They have less of a share of the GDP of Georgia. The state of Georgia has been spending less money. So, maybe we need to raise some taxes in Georgia. Maybe we need to tax the rich. Maybe we need to find some new ways to get revenue.
We just need to stop giving $1.4 billion to corporations every year.
That's true.
Or at least take a look at it and see where the incentive is actually
That's
helpful.
true. We should do away with some of those subsidies like we have, because this money needs to go to our education system. It needs to go to Medicaid so people can have access to health care. Every human being should have access to health care.
There's some bad schools in Georgia.
And there are some bad schools. And I'm not saying we throw more money at schools, it's going to fix the problem. I'm not saying that.
I think we're like 48th in education.
But yeah, we obviously have work to do. We have work to do, and I think
number
it's
one in
ridiculous.
corruption, 48th in education.
Oh, I wonder
45th based on SAT scores.
Let's give Delta more
47th.
money though. Let's give them more tax breaks, because we don't have any use for that money elsewhere in the state of Georgia. Oh man!
Of course not.
While we're talking about corruption
have
and
problems in
scandal,
Georgia.
let's talk for a second on the Atlanta teacher scandal and the reasons for it.
Oh man, this is getting deep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this isn't even the politicians at this point. We're talking about school teachers.
But it does
man.
go back to the politicians, because if you look at No Child Left Behind,
Yeah, they're trying to meet those
the
standards.
incentive for the teachers to cheat. Because if they didn't have a certain percentage of their class score a certain percentage on the standardized test, they would be penalized.
I mean, it's mind-numbingly simple. The SAT, it costs money, yes, but there has to be a way for the federal government, if they're going to set a federal standard, to set up a website that every student can go onto. There should be no excuse for why these teachers were given the answer keys so that they even had the responsibility to go and erase them and put the right answers on. It's just a stupid system to begin with, if they even have that opportunity to cheat.
So it was like it was set up for them, for the ability to cheat to even be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would make more sense to have somebody else proctor the exam that's not the teacher, whose income is dependent
Based
upon
on
the exam.
Yeah, exactly. So,
That does seem like a pretty simple structural flaw.
I call
that
it
they
trickle down
could have
corruption.
prevented.
It's not just corporations trying to get money they don't deserve. It's teachers
Trying
too.
to get money that they do deserve.
Teachers too.
That they do, yeah, exactly. It's rightfully theirs. Yeah.
Those teachers.
Striking it to the heart of the Democratic Party. You know what? I bet unions are getting some money they don't deserve too.
Of course. I want to say that the number 3 donor in the 2010 election cycle was a union, followed by the...
Wait, in the national?
Yeah,
Georgia?
no, for the state, 2010. No, 2012, actually. 2012 in the state of Georgia. The majority of the money came from
Man, I doubt that.
the Republican Party, then the Democratic Party was number 1, then Republican Party, then some labor union. Those were top 3 donors. And then like Nathan Deal was like number 10.
Yeah, man, there's stuff like Purdue PAC.
Their governor.
Sonny Purdue's got his PAC.
Yeah,
spending
Sonny
money.
Purdue PAC was up
Yeah,
there. It was
yeah,
ahead.
it's
It
up
was
there.
ahead of deals.
Getting that money.
The state
man.
bar association of Georgia. It was
Why are they donating? That seems.
because
I guess they're a private entity, but that's kind
they're
of.
donating because they have lawyers who they want elected into state.
Now you know
offices.
lawyers donate some serious money to the
That's-
Democratic Party, like no joke. I mean they make unions look like
That's why.
just a small slice of pizza next to a whole pizza.
But the unions got their due in the healthcare reform 2010. We're on national corruption now, but trial lawyers, they donated to prevent tort reform to be part of that healthcare reform, and unions pitched a fit because they've been stupid enough to pay their workers with health benefits instead of wages. We have the American population so thoroughly convinced in medical technology and all its fantastic wonder that it's going to save your life, when really we're just going to spend tons of money for you to sit on some expensive machine for 6 months of your life when you have no quality of life. That aside, unions lobbied tooth and nail to keep their health benefits from being taxed. We have this gigantic subsidy so that if your wages go to pay for healthcare premiums, that portion of your wages does not get taxed. It's an effective gigantic subsidy. I think somewhere on the lines of $250 billion a year to the healthcare industry. All health economists said we need the Cadillac tax. We need to tax these expensive health benefit programs because they don't add value. They don't add health to people. People have just been taught, union members, as stupid as they are, decided that's how they wanted to be paid. So they cried and cried, and then they got an exemption.
But is that really a stupid
yes,
thing to
it
want?
is, because
it's tax-free if your employer
because-
pays for all your health insurance.
Because you can go back to the 2003 study, I think, by Gottlieb, but it shows that Medicare expenditures, variations between different regions, you can spend a lot more, you're not going to buy health. We're wasting so much money in the United States healthcare system without any evidence that it improves health.
But
And that's where unions wanted their money instead of their pockets. If you don't want your money in your pocket, you're not a smart worker. You don't deserve the money. Tax it. All healthcare costs should be taxed. It's ridiculous.
I just can't agree with that. I mean, the reason that it costs different amounts for healthcare in every state is because the cost of living is different. So that means that the rent or the property value for the hospital is going to be more expensive. The doctors are going to have to get paid more. So, of course, states like New York and Massachusetts are going to have more expensive health care than low cost of living states like Texas or Georgia.
No, Georgia.
And Medicare adjusts for that through their hospital regions. It's not a big deal. It's not that much of a variation.
Hey, I'm looking at the numbers for Georgia's top campaign contributors in 2012.
Who we got? Who's buying our
I'm looking at like the
politician?
top 20, and
Who's
like
friends with
Oh,
my
that
representative?
is juicy. Let's hear the top 20.
I don't see any unions. The top 3. Well, first we got Cox Enterprises.
Of course. That's WSB AM
Oh,
750.
Well, maybe I was looking at 2010.
Isn't that the AJC too? Isn't AJC owned by Cox?
They dropped almost $2.5 million in 1 year.
Nice.
Wow.
That's our media. That's our corporate media.
Coming up
bringing
next,
us-
anyone's got to guess.
So they control our media and many of
After
our
Cox,
politicians.
I'm going
Wow.
to say
Thank you, Cox
AOL
sisters.
Time Warner.
I'm gonna say lawyers. Is that like, are things listed like that as a group, or is this just individual?
At the site I looked at,
This
it
is just
said-
individual. I can look
individual.
by industry. Let's see here.
yeah.
Yeah, lawyers are the second. Retired is the first. Is the leading industry.
Retired?
Yeah,
Retired
so like
individuals?
retirement.
I guess retired people, or yeah. I mean,
That's a group.
retire.
Well, good for
Don't
them.
ask
All
me.
people are trying to pay attention.
Don't ask me.
All right.
But they dropped almost 6.5 million. The next one is lawyers. Yeah, they dropped 3 million, less than half of what
Wow.
the retired people. did.
Wow.
After that, coming up close third is TV, movies, and music, and then securities and investment, because Atlanta might start to become a get the what are they getting here?
The movies and the TV, they
Yeah.
get tax breaks.
They get
Yeah,
tax
yeah, they
breaks.
do.
That's why
Yeah.
we got some. The Walking Dead is filmed in Atlanta.
Exactly.
That's right. Governor
there
Jimmy
you go.
Carter started that.
You
Started
could
giving
call that
tax breaks.
corruption, or you could call it good business, because then we have all these jobs here in Georgia.
I think it's a
They
good
don't
look for
create that
Georgia.
many jobs.
Yeah, I think it makes
I
Georgia
think
look
it's
pretty
a good
cool.
look.
You know?
Nathan Dale, he
But see,
doing
that's
some-
that's a part of the 1.4 billion.
It is. Absolutely.
yeah, is it now? If you look at it
Yeah,
like
but you
that
want to
now.
look. Yeah, you want to see how far down the list any of that is. Hey, you want? All right, you guys want to? All right, well, let's finish up the.
Who's
Let's finish
buying
up going
our
through the list. All right,
politicians?
number 2 was UPS. How would you guys not guess that?
Oh.
After that is Aflac.
What about Delta? Where are they?
Delta,
I'm guessing Coca-Cola's up there
honestly,
somewhere.
Delta's not on this like top 20 here.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind
They
of
are
surprising.
really efficient with their money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but wait,
But well, there's other
Joey,
ways.
who
I
was
mean,
it that had that statistic of 650 people? That's how Delta's, doing it.
What?
650 officials or get tickets on Delta. Is that right?
Nah, you
Who
mixed
had
it
that
up.
statistic?
It was 650 Georgia officials accepted sports tickets in the
Sports
2007-8 legislative
Yeah,
session.
sports tickets, man. This is Georgia. That's how you get them. You give them a nice.
So we got is Arthur
There,
is Arthur
sports
Blank
tickets.
up there? We got
Yeah,
like Home Depot.
yeah,
or
what-
the
yeah,
Atlanta
where's Home Depot?
Falcons.
All right. Well, for the donors here. All right, I'll run through a list of the donors here. We got All right. After all those, the Intercontinental Exchange, which aren't they moving? Aren't they trying to buy up?
Oh yeah, ICE. That's right.
Yeah, they're trying to set up shop in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So we're gonna become a little financial
And
capital.
somebody they just bought the New York Stock Exchange, right?
I think they're trying to. I don't know if it's gone through
I think
yet.
they just did for about $8 billion, or they're
Yeah,
they're trying
somebody
to
just bought the
something
New York
like
Stock
that.
Exchange.
Yeah, they're working on it, and they're trying to buy. I mean, they're setting up shop in Atlanta. So Occupy Atlanta's got to get our.
So
shit
that would
together.
mean that the technical headquarters of New York Stock Exchange would be yours truly, Atlanta,
Well,
Georgia.
it's gonna
Look
be
at
like
the
another
smile on
center.
Joey's face.
I want
New York's
a
got, like,
job
headquarters
there.
in
I know
Sandy
they're getting
Springs or
paid.
something?
Yeah.
Give me a job.
All right. After that, the Richard and Barbara Gaby Foundation. Don't know what that is. Account Pros, and then Coca-Cola,
Ah.
and then Southern Company,
Of course.
Oh, I'm surprised they're not higher.
Cocksuckers.
and we also got on here Friends of Herman Cain dropped almost $600,000.
Wow.
Sounds like something out of South Park, but all right.
And friends of Herman Cain had $600,000. That's all.
$600,000, man. So his presidential campaign monies.
Imagine how much he had to spend on keeping women quiet.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
that's just for one woman. That's all she wanted. He was paying her rent, wasn't
It's another bailout
Yeah, and once
plan
he
that
dropped
didn't work.
out, he asked for his money back.
he? Yeah. Or services in exchange.
All right, let's see. Next, we got Emory University on here, KBN Television, and then a bunch of other things I've never heard of. 21st Century Majority Fund. Yeah.
21st century.
And where did you
majority.
find that list, Scott?
OpenSecrets.org.
Nice.
Well, I was looking at followthemoney.com is where I got my information from.
I always go to Open Secrets, but
Okay.
Follow the Money, that works too. Oh yeah.
It was 2010 the year I was looking at. It was gubernatorial race.
All right, so you guys want to take a quick break, and when we get back, we will run through the list of corporations that get the most corporate handouts from the Georgia
Oh, that's
State
gonna be
Legislature.
exciting.
Does sound
We'll
exciting.
let you listen to what do we got, Brian? MIA, Paper Planes.
MIA.
All right, here we
First
go.
world democracy.
All right, back in a minute.
I get one down in a second if you wait. Sometimes I think sitting on trains. Every step I get to, I'm clocking that game. Everyone's a winner, we're making our fame. Bonafide hustler, making things sitting on trains. Every step I get to, I'm clocking that game. Everyone's a winner, we're making our fame. Bonafide hustler, making my name. All I wanna do is take your money. 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 Pirate skulls and bones, sticks and stones and weed and bombs. Running when we hit 'em. Lethal poison for the system. Pirate skulls and bones, sticks and stones and weed and bombs. Running when we hit 'em. Lethal poison for the system. No one on the corner has swagger like us. Hit me on my banner, prepaid wireless. We pack and deliver like UPS trucks. Already going hell, just pumping that gas. No one on the corner has swagger like us. Hit me on my banner, prepaid wireless. We pack and deliver like UPS trucks. Already going hell, just pumping that gas. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is take your money. All I wanna do is
What's up, Atlanta? This is Plutocracy
Plutocracy
now.
now.
This is your hosts, Joey Hornbuckle, along with
Tez Ricklin.
Ridgemont Bolger.
Scott Brown.
no funny business.
All right. So we have with us. Is this a top 10 or a top 20?
I don't know how many guys you want to go through. We got the top 100, but that'll take a while. These are the top
Is
recipients for incentive programs, top corporations in Georgia.
so these are the companies getting the most corporate welfare in Georgia,
yeah,
right?
these are the guys getting that 1.4 billion a year.
Top 20 sounds good.
God
That's 144 of your dollars you're giving these corporations every year. Everyone in this state.
So
I
how,
love
how,
job
how much
creators.
does first
You're
place
handing
get?
this money to these job creators. First place got $78.2 million
Wow.
How much?
out of 1.4 billion.
They got 78 million out of 1.4 billion.
Yeah, I mean they're the
Wow.
top, dude. They're almost twice as much as the next on the list.
Who that is?
Man,
Oh,
that first
hold on,
one's
we gotta
Cat-
guess.
We're already talking about
Yeah,
it.
we have
All
to
right.
guess.
We already
We gotta
talked
guess.
about it. If that
Oh,